After visiting the Outer Banks for the very first time, it was not what I was expecting. So then I pondered on this question. Out of Raleigh and the Outer Banks, which is a better place to live in North Carolina? And when I'm talking about the Outer Banks, I'm specifically talking about Kitty Hawk, Nag's Head, Kill Devil Hills, Manio, but also a better way to looking at it is Dare County. Overall speaking though, Raleigh and the Outer Banks are two completely different places. And quite frankly, they don't really compare well. So it's really going to depend on your lifestyle, on which you prefer, because there should never be a point in time where you're indecisive about either one or the other. Because in my opinion, the Outer Banks is way more appealing and attractive to those individuals who are there for tourism, whereas Raleigh is more career growth driven and also if you're interested in a suburban living. But stick around to hear which place I would choose to live in North Carolina, and most importantly, why. So let's just say you're considering the Outer Banks. Based on my visit, here are some of the things that I've experienced and even felt when I was there. And to kick things off, everything shuts down like 10 p.m. Not everything literally, but for the most part, majority of the place is shut down. So that gave me the assumption, well, maybe this is heavily geared towards those that are in retirement or near it, right? So that's something to definitely keep in mind. But also, I didn't make it my objective to meet anyone that was actually from there. But I can only be under the assumption that a lot of individuals have a lot of second homes there, their vacation homes there, whatever the case is, because I mean, this is a place that is heavily geared towards and marketed towards the beaches. So if you're an individual that loves the beach, wants to be around it 24/7, this is a place that you may really want to consider. There is many different beaches that go all along the coast, and it's so expansive to the point where it's so hard for it to be crowded, right? You can go to one beach, and I'm being honest with you, it's not like your big popular beaches like Myrtle Beach, for instance. If you go there, it's a ton of people there at once. Here, the beach is so long, it's so expansive all along the coast that it's so well spread out that it's really difficult for it to be even crowded. Now, I hope that I didn't give you guys an idea to make it crowded, because a lot of people then will probably not like this video. But of course, being on the beach, you're going to have many different water activities that you can do and not have an array of people just be in your way. So I saw a ton of people on jet skis, boats, what else? Surfers. We even saw some people surfing. So you have options in terms of what it is that you can do, of course, utilizing the beach. And a fun fact that I did see too, and this caught me off guard. It caught everybody that I was with off guard. We saw dolphins just kind of like swimming through the water, which was kind of cool to see, because I mean, you're not going to see that in any typical or your average beach, let's just say. But outside of the beach, you're going to have some things to do. It's just very limited, I will say. So some of the things that we experienced, or at least heard of, was the aquarium that they did have, which was pretty small. And then there was the Wrights Museum, and as well as a sand dune. I believe it was at specifically Jockey Ridge State Park that there's like this sand dune thing. I don't know. I didn't experience it, but we did hear, we did see, we drove past it. We heard a lot about it while we were out there. And of course, I almost forgot. Of course, you can go fishing. There's a ton of piers out there. In fact, personal story here. As you guys know, I'm from Connecticut. So being by the coast, I dealt with fresh seafood consistently. Whereas being closer or inland where you're not really by the coast, I honestly do not trust the seafood as much. So when I was in the Outer Banks, I took it upon myself. Hey, we're back at the coast. Now we can get some fresh seafood. And yes, I'll give him that. And then before we move on to discuss, kind of where Raleigh separates itself from the Outer Banks, there was a ton of beautiful beach houses there that I would say. I have to mention it, but I do want to mention that we're going to talk a little bit more about the cost of living later towards this video, so stick around to hear about that. Now, if you've watched my videos in the past, you should already know how Raleigh compares to the Outer Banks, but for those that haven't, here are some of the key points that I've noted. And honestly, you're going to have more selective options when it comes to entertainment in Raleigh than you will have in the Outer Banks. Of course, in Raleigh, you have no beach nearby. So just if you do want to go to the beach, you're going to have to travel at least 2 hours or so to get to one. But nonetheless, right, Raleigh is going to have a little bit more of a diverse job market, specifically because, of course, where it's located and the people, the corporations, that they're businesses that they are attracting, Whereas if you go, like I mentioned, to the Outer Banks, it's more of a tourism. So you're not going to really have that, in my personal opinion, that stability there. And we can't forget that it is closer to the mountains. So let's just say you want the best of both worlds, being able to go to the mountains and being able to go to the beach. That those are both day trips that you could typically do and not be worn out. Whereas you go to Outer Banks, yeah, you take a day trip to the mountains, yeah, you'll probably be on the road for quite some time. So I mean, if you have a family and you have kiddos, I mean, good luck keeping them entertained in the Outer Banks past day 3. I'm sure you all can get creative and figure something out. But these are just some of the challenges that does present itself that you may want to consider when deciding which place would be the best place for you. But I do have more standout reasons that you're definitely going to want to hear. So make sure to stick around and hear what I have to say later in this video. So like I mentioned before, I will compare the cost of living to Raleigh and the Outer Banks, and specifically, we're going to call it Dare County because that's the area. And just to give you guys a glimpse and understanding of exactly what you're going to be dealing with. And I mean, let's just right out the gate, the cost of living in Dare County is 4% living than Raleigh, North Carolina. I mean, if we were to break it down by section, we can really go ahead and do so. I won't spend too much time on this stuff, but let's look at the cost of a house in Raleigh in comparison to Dare County. So Raleigh, you're looking at about $426,000, whereas Dare County about $633,000. And I think the only reason why they're saying it's less, if you really look at the rentals here, you can see in Raleigh you're spending about $1,600, whereas the Outer Banks you're going to be spending about $1,300. And so this is a good idea, right? To look at to see how does your current financial situation compare, and which are you going to get the best bang out of buck if you're really comparing the two. Again, this is a decision that should be really indecisive. In my personal opinion, you should be kind of clear cut on which direction you're going in. But if you do need some more information, we can go ahead and take a look at some of the transportation aspect. And I don't remember what gas prices was out there. I want to say it was just about the same in Raleigh, but here, of course, says different, but I don't remember. Unfortunately, I didn't go to the doctor or do anything healthcare wise, so I'm not going to really touch upon that. And then lifestyle, I could for sure seeing it cost a little bit more in Raleigh just because there's more to do. Of course, you have more options. The pricing can get kind of up there in price just because there's more, but I don't know about this one. I can actually say I think a little different about this just because there isn't too many things out there, which could allow for the prices could be higher than any other place. But I just want to show you guys this. Hopefully this gives you enough information to know exactly if you were to choose to live there, cost wise, what exactly are you dealing with. And of course, as I said earlier in this portion of the video, Dare County is 4% lower than Raleigh, North Carolina. So something that you may pick up really quickly, and this is what I picked up. I think the Outer Banks is a great place to visit and spend some of your time, maybe even the summer months there. Something like what a lot of the celebrities, famous people do when they go to the Hamptons and they kind of just get away. I honestly view the Outer Banks as a very similar mindset or a perspective where a lot of individuals just go there, and maybe it's for their vacation home, their second home, or it's just there to get away. That's how I viewed it, and that's why I'd assume it's a lot of a tourist place because a lot of individuals that are coming in to travel into the Outer Banks. But for myself to be there all year round, honestly, I think I would have a very hard time doing that. Because honestly, when I was there, it was great to visit, but living, as you guys may know, sometimes could be a totally different perspective or even aspect. But do you remember when I mentioned earlier in the video when I said we're going to talk about some standout reasons you're for sure going to want to hear? Well, here, we're going to get right into it. And one of the key standout reasons that stood out to me is the location of the Outer Banks in comparison to Raleigh. I mean, Raleigh, you're going to have accessibility in a drive that you can go to different states. You can explore to the mountains. You can go to the beach. You can go to different cities and kind of get that exposure. Whereas if you're in the Outer Banks, I mean, the closest place, major city, honestly, near is Richmond, Virginia, which is an entirely different state that you're going to have to go to. In fact, I could take it a step further. that's where the nearest airport is. It's either, honestly, your nearest airport is either Raleigh, which you're going to have a good drive, or you're going to Richmond, Virginia, and still having a good drive from there as well. Whereas if you're in Raleigh, you have an airport nearby, you have accessibility to different states, you have accessibility to different cities to go ahead and go to and experience if you want to go outside of wherever it is that you're exploring, you're living, visiting, whatever the case may be. But let's take it a step further and talk about what North Carolina is prone to. We can't throw it under the rug, right? Because I know a lot of people do it because, some places in North Carolina does not experience it as much, which is tornadoes and hurricanes. And honestly, being in the Outer Banks, very close to the water, 9 times out of 10, you are going to get hit way harder than anyone that is living in that Raleigh area. In fact, I'll go ahead and pull this up recently what occurred, and I'm sure you guys have all seen it, but this happens. I don't know how often, but this is not the first time I've seen something like this happen. So something to really keep in mind. If you are considering moving, relocating, purchasing in that area, please keep this in mind. So you have every way of protecting yourself and knowing exactly what you must do if this were to occur. So, this being on the forefront of occurring not on a regular basis, but occurring, you could expect higher insurance premiums. So definitely keep that in mind in your costs. However, after hearing all of my reasons and my experiences, I'm personally going to be biased here and ultimately choose Raleigh to spend most of my time. But I have to mention, I am not opposed to spending any of my summer months of time in the Outer Banks, but to spend majority of my time there, I'll take a pass on that one, simply because of where I'm at in life, right? The stage that I'm at. I want to put myself around opportunities, and I think that Raleigh is going to have a little bit more opportunities than the Outer Banks for myself. But let's just say I get to a point where I could kick my feet up and relax a bit more, then yeah, that's a different conversation that we can have. And if you still don't know enough about Raleigh, this is the perfect time to go ahead and check out a playlist I have dedicated specifically to learning about the different suburbs that surround Raleigh specifically. If Raleigh isn't the place that you want to be, there's many different areas outside of it that you can go ahead and attract yourself to as well. Overall speaking though, the Outer Banks is not a terrible place. In fact, I encourage everyone to visit and get that experience at least once. But I do want to make a point here. Remember that visiting a place and living in a place are two different things. In fact, speaking about visiting, I'm actually going to be visiting another place in North Carolina here shortly, and I'll be doing a video just like this, giving you guys my experiences and understanding so you guys can see what aspects of North Carolina provides to you and compare it to maybe Raleigh. So if you do like a video like this, make sure to subscribe so you guys don't miss out on that one. But I'm curious on everything shared, and maybe even based on your experiences out of Raleigh and the Outer Banks. Which one are you choosing? Let's hear it in the comments below. Because just as much as I enjoy making these videos for you guys, my name is Ronnie and I am a licensed realtor here in North Carolina. I would love nothing more to be able to assist you on your relocation needs. So if you do need help with the buying, the selling of, or even investing in real estate, you see that number that is popping up right there. Make sure to give me a call, shoot me a text, email, day or night, hey, maybe even on the weekends. Always remember one thing. I got your back in this market.